Hi, my name is Jacob, and welcome to another episode of Raw and Uncut on the Abrasive Conversations platform. Before I start today's episode, I would like to thank everyone who subscribed, and everyone who is leaving a comment and participate in the conversation. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it, and I hope that the information and the conversation that I'm starting on YouTube and online is going to filtrate into the spaces where you are, meaning that you are going to continue the conversation. On my specific platform, I don't want to be right. I don't want to be the all-knowing God that is always right. I do make mistakes, and sometimes my analysis could have been better. And if that happens, please do point it out. Thus far, that hasn't been the case, because before I come to record any episode, I make sure that I do research, I do background research, and I look at two specific things. The one is the arguments for it and the arguments against it, pros and cons. And I only take a position when I'm confident that this will, or this is a fact, and that it will stand the test of time. So that's just my process behind the scenes. So yeah, if I make a mistake, point it out, but thus far I haven't made a mistake. There is instances where I rewatch the episode and it looked like I could have put it better, or in that particular instance I was too abrasive. Yeah, there is an irony in abrasive, and the pun was intended. So in this episode, I want to briefly talk about the disappearance of Jocelyn Smith. Now, most of you might be aware that last year in February, Jocelyn Smith disappeared. It was a young child in the Saldanha Bay municipality area, disappeared. And later, the mother and a couple of people were arrested, and they are now appearing in Saldanha for this particular case. The issue that I have, and this episode is recorded a day after human rights. The issue that I have is that human rights in the accused in this case, Kelly Smith, are not adhered to. And the way she is handled in the media is that she is already guilty of the disappearance of a child. At this particular moment, it's unclear whether Kelly is guilty or innocent with this particular case. But what I've seen in the media and even online is that she is portrayed as guilty from the onset, that she was responsible for the disappearance of a child and allegedly sold her child to some people. There are some people saying that she sold her child to a Sangoma. Another one say that the child was sold in human trafficking, leaving the country in a container. So I read those newspaper reports, and the newspaper reports always portrayed it that Kelly is guilty. Now, the presentation of that, presenting Kelly in that way, causes extreme violence towards her. For example, when she went to go show where she lived and where the incident could have possibly took place, the community that she lived in already started attacking her verbally, not physically but verbally. Now there's a violence of some sort towards her, and this is where I picked up some of the hypocrisy of that community. So there's so many people who are saying that she was telling them that she would sell her children, but none of them went to the police, went to a social worker, or at one point intervene and talk to Kelly and tell her maybe this is not the best type of information that you want to put out in the public domain. So I don't want to go into details of this case because it's still taking place, but there is already questions with regards to some of the witness testimonies in this particular case. And this is what we always have to keep our minds to, especially in cases like this, is that you are innocent until proven guilty, but you can never be guilty until proven innocent. So that's the one principle or the one thing that I want South Africans, and especially people closely following this trial, keep their minds to. Don't make Kelly guilty before she is not proven guilty. That is just a human rights issue. She has the right to be guilty, or she has the right to be innocent until proven guilty. And even if she is guilty, then she also has a set of human rights that protect her as a guilty person. And that rights everyone have in South Africa. If you're in prison or when you have a case running, you have that rights. So there's one thing that we must not do. Now I want to come to the second thing that I picked up, and that second thing is that we failed the children. We as a society, South African society, are failing children in particular, because a community was supposed to raise Jocelyn Smith. From what I see is that she was one of those kids that was most loved within the community. And when she disappeared, the whole community came and started searching for Jocelyn. This is important, is that if you look at the circumstances in which Kelly found herself in, then it is not one of the best circumstances to raise a child. Now, Jocelyn is one of many cases in South Africa where children disappear and they end up later being dead. And that is the saddest part of it, is that we don't know what happened to Jocelyn, and we hope that it doesn't turn out as it turned out for most of the other children that disappear in South Africa. So we are anxiously following this trial with the hope that Jocelyn is alive and that she will be returned to a mother, a family, and even to that particular community. But we yet, even though there is a caring community and a family and all of them behind it, we as a South African society fail them. Because if we see where Kelly find herself in at the point of her arrest and the disappearance of a child, is that she was addicted to drugs. And even some of the testimonies that came out during the past 2 weeks is that she was surrounded by drug dealers. So how can you sell drugs to someone and allow drugs to be sold in your community and expect that that person will be able to care for their children. It's impossible. And it's that situation that I see that we have failed the children in our society. We cannot raise children in societies where drugs are freely flowing from door to door, where you are living next to the drug dealer. Because if that happens, it's first the mother and the parents would become addicted, and then it affects the children, and later the children is also addicted to drugs. So that's the biggest concern that I have, is that even though those community care about Jocelyn, they do not care enough to do something about the issue of drugs within their community. Now, there is the other side to this, especially when it comes to drug dealing in our communities. The people who mostly sell drugs in our communities and dealing drugs in our communities are extremely dangerous and violent. And that violence can quickly turn towards the community and any person who speaks out against drug dealing. And this brings me to the South African Police Service. In many cases, the South African Police Service know about the drug dealings in those communities, but they don't do anything about it. Sometimes they arrest sloppy, and sometimes there is cases of corruption within the police that inform the dealers beforehand that there's a search for a warrant for issued to search your property to see if you have drugs, and people get rid of those drugs. So it's a complicated situation which this community finds themselves in. And there is almost no way out of this situation. The only way out of the situation is to move out of the community into a different community that is safer. Thus far, that has seemed to work best. So that's why we have a brain drain in communities, especially communities where you find most of these challenges, like alcohol misuse, drug abuse, and even gender-based violence. Young people who make it, go to university, get their degrees, they don't stay in those communities. They move into better neighborhoods and they raise their children there, leaving family and friends behind in those situations. And it's their right. It's their right to be safe and move into a different neighborhood. Sometimes they are they're fortunate enough to also bring their family and some of their friends with them out of those environments. But the large majority of people are stuck in those communities, and they are almost permanently faced with these issues on a day-to-day basis, and eventually you see a total decay of that society. So we see this from the outside, and the people experience it from the inside. And we that see it from the outside is as much guilty and complicit towards the violence than the people who cause it in the communities. So us looking from the outside in and see the problems, maybe have to step in and help out where we can. And not just by some community-based organization or some welfare program. That doesn't help. We have to have decent, empowering tools in those communities and education programs that will systematically take that community out of the issues that they currently find themselves in. And I know a lot of community development practitioners that would agree with me on this particular matter. So ladies and gentlemen, do you think that we failed the children of South Africa, or is this a government issue? What's your thoughts on this matter? I would love to hear it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.